Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now March 5th of 2024, and given that there's been a lot of things happening over at Lucasfilm, one of the most failed divisions over at the Walt Disney Company, not just due to Bob Iger, but we also have to blame Kathleen Kennedy's lack of leadership skills and who she exactly hires to run these series of shows and movies that she has approved over the years. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So we all know that the overall agenda by Kathleen Kennedy, Leslye Headland, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, three of the worst individuals that are over at Lucasfilm, tarnishing Star Wars further and further and driving it into the ground beyond damage, of course. I think it's irreversible at this point. But what's interesting about everything moving onwards has a lot to do with Leslye Headland's take on the Star Wars fandom, on the Star Wars franchise itself, and George Lucas as an individual, as the creator of all things Star Wars. So let's get into all of this, shall we now? We already know that Leslye Headland, in my book, and I pointed this out a couple of days ago, I believe that she's way worse than Kathleen Kennedy as far as her beliefs go, with her agenda and her overall viewpoints on the fandom and how she blames the toxic male demographic, all these non-existent things, when in reality people just want a good story to watch, either on the big screen or on streaming, right? That's all people want. They want common sense, and they want good writing, good directing, and great character development, period, the end. And to also honor the source material. But moving onwards here, this is where things begin to go quite downhill when it comes to what is about to happen on June 5th with the release of the Acolyte series. So let's get into this. Now, with Bob Iger already engaging in multiple emergency meetings, especially for one of their most failed divisions, like Lucasfilm for example, one major development involves director and showrunner Leslye Headland of the Acolyte series, where she delivered the following to the public regarding the Acolyte. As a woman and a feminist, I believe it's been long overdue for Star Wars to finally feature a female ensemble cast, and to run a project that detaches from the burden of original trilogy fans that were too connected to George Lucas is something I take much pride in, because what we are chasing is something truly original and inspirational with The Acolyte. It's going to be a spectacular story about sisterhood and women generally that will change the galaxy far, far away. I thought it was absolutely necessary when writing this project and organizing everything and getting the chance to direct that, we had to break the rules of Star Wars and shift away from tradition to what fans are already used to. I think many long-term fans just don't get it, that in order to create something original you have to let go from the past, and that's just not connected to the storytelling but also to how the stories are told through theming and its format. We didn't just want to make another George Lucas-inspired project. I wanted to look at popular films like The Matrix, Kill Bill, and even Frozen, which is my favorite Disney movie, and how we could mash that all up into the Star Wars world. Myself and Kathy agreed it would be a mistake to bring George on the set to supervise this show, because we didn't want any of our cast or crew feeling that type of pressure, you know? So that was a decision that we had made earlier on. This story is going to be the most different Star Wars tale you will ever see, and come June 5th, I think we will create a new generation of Star Wars fans. Of course, you are going to have naysayers who want to put you down and disrespect your vision and your dreams, but Kathy taught me to just ignore them because it's just a small minority that's very loud and toxic. I like to focus on the fans that are open to change and are willing to adapt to something new. This series is all about women with different backgrounds, beliefs, and appearances that I think are going to allow us to reach a wider audience globally. This is a Kathleen Kennedy-driven project that I am proud to be a part of, and it's Kathy's baby that I was more than happy to adopt with my directing and writing skills. I think fans of Russian Doll, which, by the way, guys, is a series that she was connected to previously. She goes on to say, I will also see pieces of that show in The Acolyte when they get the chance to see it, and you will all love it. Like Star Wars saved my life, and I felt it was such a rare opportunity to provide my vision of what Star Wars should be all about. Now guys, before I get to the next thing that Leslye spews here about The Acolyte, let me just say another thing about this, is that I think this lines up with what we talked about a couple of months ago about how the whole sister aspect of the Acolyte is basically what she took from the Frozen movie by Disney and throwing that into the Acolyte series. So you got that element thrown in there. You're going to have the Matrix because basically this is all about Kung Fu and Kung Fu style in Star Wars, kind of throwing in that element as well. And not to mention Kill Bill as far as how the overall pacing goes. So she's throwing in elements of these movies into the Star Wars franchise that I think is going to make it feel very disjointed and very much combobulated. We all knew what Rian Johnson did. He did the same exact thing. He got this quote-unquote rare opportunity to work on such a multi-million-dollar film that is something generational, something that fans have, grew up with over the years, such as Star Wars. And Rian Johnson, all he did was he used that as an opportunity to kind of really reflect his own vision in Star Wars by borrowing many elements from other films and copying scenes, copy and paste scenarios, which is why it felt inauthentic. Same exact thing is happening here with The Acolyte, and at no shocker, she said a couple of days ago that Rian Johnson is her favored director of Star Wars. Can you believe that? She favors Rian Johnson over George Lucas. That's how insane she really is, and how ludicrous this story is really going to be once it comes in June. Moving on, she goes on to conclude, between The Acolyte, of course, and the project by the ever-talented Charmin Chenoy bringing back Rey, I feel that Star Wars is on the right track by empowering women both on the big screen and at home for streaming. It goes full circle, and it's been long enough that we have been waiting in the shadows to head under the spotlight and rightfully deserve the limelight with the characters that we create for this world. Again, Leslye Headland is making it seem like all these male directors and writers and actors are evil, and that we absolutely resent women roles in whatever brand or franchise it may be, and that's just not the case. Over the decades, there have been many examples of powerful women that just worked, and I know I like to bring out the most obvious examples, but it's the fastest way to really do this. When you look at characters like Ellen Ripley, when you look at characters like Sarah Connor and Beatrix Kiddo, I mean, that's just three right there off the bat that worked naturally because it came naturally through the storytelling as the writers wrote those stories. And what Leslye is doing is something that is just going to strip Star Wars down to complete ruin, where the damage will be most certainly irreversible. And I like to point this out many times. If you thought The Last Jedi was bad, just wait for the negative response from the fans with the Acolyte series. Number one, she's breaking the rules. Number two, she's shifting away from the tradition of Star Wars. And that's enough to tell us that this is going to be a disaster. If you guys want to support George Lucas' Star Wars, check out the re-release of The Phantom Menace, dropping in theaters again this May to celebrate the anniversary. Go ahead and check it out if you want to support Lucas. So overall, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this ongoing situation between Lucasfilm and Disney Star Wars overall. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.